Okay, Chris, I think everything works.
Yeah, I think it started. All right, then we are live. I will start the evening in Dutch and then we go to the English language. So, ik wil je allemaal welkom heten bij alweer de 34e avondsessie van de Power BI gebruikersgroep. We hebben vandaag een hele bijzondere gast, want wij live verbinden met Seattle. Carly Newsome is program manager van het Power BI Goals team. En het is natuurlijk fantastisch dat wij vanavond een sessie met haar hebben. Want ja, dichter bij het productteam als dit gaat het niet worden. Ik heb vooraf al met Carly besproken en we willen het graag een hele interactieve sessie maken. En dat betekent dat als je iets te binnen schiet of je wil iets vragen, je kunt gelijk je microfoon opengooien en je kunt vragen stellen. We willen het zo interactief mogelijk houden. Wat ook kan is, Hielke en ik zullen ook in de gaten houden dat als iemand de hand opsteekt met de feature van Teams, dat zullen we ook in de gaten houden. En je kunt, als je wilt, kun je ook een vraag in de chat neerzetten. En dan zullen Hielke of ik zullen hem oppakken om hem aan Carly te vragen. Dus zo willen we het aanvliegen. Maar het belangrijkste is om een interactieve sessie ervan gaan maken vandaag. Dan gaat hij weer net te snel. Dus even voor vandaag, we beginnen over ongeveer een paar minuutjes met de sessie van Carly. We hebben om 9 uur zijn we van plan te stoppen. Nou, het is geen harde stop. Het kan zijn dat we iets gaan uitlopen. Als er dan net een laatste nieuwe sneak preview, dat willen we natuurlijk niet missen. Dus het kan zijn dat iets uitloopt, maar de richttijd is 9 uur. En dan kun je gezellig een drankje erbij pakken en dan doen we nog een virtuele borrel na de tijd. Dus het zou leuk zijn als je aanschuift, maar als je denkt van ik heb al zo'n lange dag gehad en het is wel goed zo, dat is uiteraard ook prima. En dan is de richtlijn ongeveer dat we om 9:30 gaan stoppen. Ja, we werken dus weer met de teams, wat ik net al nog benoemde, dus handjes op als je een vraag hebt, maar gooi die microfoon open en laten we er een leuke sessie van maken. Wat ik nog wel wil bij benoemen is dat wij nemen deze sessie op. En dat betekent dus ook dat deze sessie na afloop geplaatst wordt op ons YouTube kanaal. En dus als je liever hebt dat je niet in beeld komt, dan, wat ik net al zei, dan zou je bijvoorbeeld die vraag via de chat kunnen gaan stellen. Goed, weer een oproep. We hebben het de vorige keer al gedaan en volgens mij de keer daarvoor ook al. Wij zoeken sprekers voor avondsessies. Sterker nog, voor de volgende maand hebben we nog geen spreker definitief ingepland. Dus ja, heb je iets om te presenteren en het mag ook je mag een avondvullende sessie indienen, maar je kunt ook als je zegt ik wil iets kleins beginnen, bijvoorbeeld in een kwartiertje iets laten zien. Dat is ook prima, dat vinden we ook leuk. We willen gewoon iedereen een kans geven om kennis te delen. En dat is ook wel een van de dingen die we als stichting graag willen bereiken. We willen graag hebben dat je zelf die ervaring opdoet om te presenteren en om die kennis te delen. En uiteraard ook we hebben altijd een goede opkomst. Er zijn veel mensen die vaak geïnteresseerd zijn in allerlaatste nieuwtjes van Power BI. Dus als je interesse hebt, dan kun je een mailtje sturen naar chris@pbig.nl. Of je kunt ook een mailtje sturen naar Hielke, HYLKE@pbig.nl. En dan een van onze twee pakt het dan op. En dan ook als je gewoon vragen hebt van hoe het in zijn werk gaat of schroom niet en stuur ons een e-mail. Want uiteraard is deze stichting voor en door de Power BI gebruikers in Nederland. Dus misschien ben jij dat wel. Als laatste wil ik nog even benoemen dat wij druk bezig zijn met de voorbereidingen van de Power BI Gebruikersdag 2022. Voorbereidingen zijn in volle gang. We gaan nog op een later moment nog meer lawaai maken, maar ik dacht ik deel alvast wel even weer de datum. zodat je die alvast in je agenda kunt zetten. Heb je al een ticket gekocht van de editie van het is toch inmiddels weer 2 jaar geleden, hè? Dan blijft dat ticket geldig. Dus dan hoef je niks te doen. Als je een ticket hebt, is het prima. En later zullen we nog meer bekendmaken, maar reserveer alvast die datum. Dus, en je ziet dus op de 30 maart, dat is een donderdag. Op de donderdag hebben we een pre-con, waarbij je 1 dag een training hebt van dezelfde trainer. En dan ga je dus 1 dag diep in op 1 specifiek onderwerp. En we proberen natuurlijk zo kwalitatief zo hoog mogelijke sprekers binnen te halen. Verder hebben we op vrijdag een Deep Dive Friday. En wat dat inhoudt is, dat is op dezelfde plek als waar ook de Power BI gebruikersdag zelf plaatsvindt. Je ziet op deze slide, daar zal dan niet de Deep Dive Friday, niet in deze specifieke zaal, maar wel op dezelfde plek, de Supernova in Utrecht. En dat worden dan sessies die dan wat iets langer duren. Dus over het algemeen 2 uur. 2 uur durende sessies, waarbij je echt de diepte in kunt. En een ander aspect van die dag is ook dat het wat rustiger is. Want de zaterdag 2 april, dat is zeg maar de big day. Dan gaan we proberen de jaarbeurs zo goed mogelijk te vullen. En uiteraard, fingers crossed voor COVID natuurlijk. We hebben gewoon... We willen gewoon de hoop hebben en we willen ergens graag naartoe leven. En daarom gaan we er gewoon van uit dat het dan mogelijk is. En dus voor nu even zet die datum in je agenda. Alright, now I'm going to switch back to English. Because I would like to announce our special speaker, Carly Newsome from Seattle. So very excited. I think I've said enough. So, Carly, good luck and let's go for the Power BI goals.
Okay. Well, my Dutch is a little rusty, but I think there was like a brief moment there where I understood Chris was saying like, hey, this should be interactive and feel free to, come off mute and talk. I think I heard the word interactive a lot and like the raise hand feature in Teams. So please, please, please feel comfortable doing that. This is really fun for me to do, to talk to users and potential users. My background is actually as a user researcher on the goals team. So I spent like all day, every day talking to people who are using the product. So I love stuff like this. I love answering questions, hearing your feedback. So please feel free to come off mute. And then I think Chris and Hilk can monitor the chat maybe. And if you just want to write questions in the chat or need me to clarify anything, absolutely fine. And they'll just call it out to me. Yeah, I'm going to be looking back in between a couple screens. So sorry if I'm not really paying attention to the chat much. That is why I need some good chat monitors. So thank you in advance. Let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, so are you guys able to see my PowerPoint? Great. Okay, so I am going to give, just to overview what we're going to talk about, I'll give a quick demo of what goals is about, kind of what we're after and the benefit. I'll walk through some of the kind of key features on what you need to know if you want to go tomorrow and start setting up goals for your organization. And then we'll go through a couple things that are being announced this week and are going to come in the next like 3 or 4 weeks or so. And then at the end, we'll stop the recording and I'll give like an extra sneak peek into some features that we have not released at Ignite and we won't be really releasing broadly until they're in the product. So they're a couple months away. But it's always fun to get kind of early stage feedback on those things as well. So before I dive into a demo, I would love for, if you can just put in the chat, I'm interested to know like who is brand new to goals. Like if you are like, I don't even know what goals is, I'm here to learn about it, I haven't experimented with this at all, put a 0 in the chat. And if you're like, I know goals, or I've at least heard of goals and like played around with it, I kind of know what it's about, go ahead and put a 1. I'm going to do a demo of everything either way, but I just like to know where people are starting from. Cool. So lots of brand new people. This is really exciting. I'm going to be looking back and forth because I love to see people's like wowed faces. So, or I don't know, hopefully not disgruntled faces. Usually it's wowed, but we'll see. But okay, great. So it seems like a lot of really new people. So perfect. All right. So let me switch over from PowerPoint to the demo and I'll just jump into the product. So to give just a quick kind of elevator pitch of what goals is after. So we all know and love Power BI. We are data-driven people. We work in data-driven organizations. And what goals is after is a really data-driven way to set and track metrics that are really important to your organization. And we already have all of our other organizational data in Power BI. So why not track our goals in Power BI as well? So it's really kind of one area where you can capture all of your similar or related goals and share them broadly, make sure everyone's on the same page. You can update them so that everyone knows what's going on and has the context to make data-driven decisions based on those goals and where you're at. So the way that you kind of get about just diving into goals here. So if you come to the service, Power BI service, you land on your home page here, you can see that there's a new tab in the navigation called goals. So if you click into the goals tab, this is what we call the goals hub. So this is kind of like your homepage for goals. So right off the bat, you can see we have some recommended tiles up here, which are telling me essentially if there's something really cool or an important trend going on in one of the things I care about, one of the metrics that I care about. So right off the bat, I get a good summary here. And then of course, down here, I have some navigation here so I can access whatever scorecards I need. I obviously have content in here. I've built a couple of scorecards. People have shared scorecards with me. So I have some listed here. If you're starting brand new, we do still have some tiles here. They're like sample tiles, so you can get an idea of what a scorecard might look like, how you want to set it up, and the kind of elements that you'll need to include when you're going through and creating one for yourself. And then as soon as people share stuff with you, you'll get your list of scorecards down here as well. So to get started, you will be creating, we're going to go through creation process of creating a scorecard. So just for context, a scorecard is kind of how we've decided to organize goals within our feature. So a scorecard is kind of like a container or like a home for similar or related goals that you can track. So to get started, we can just go ahead and click create new scorecard here, and we can give it a name. So we'll call this one, let's imagine for this scenario, we work for a company called Northwind. So we're going to call this Northwind Revenue FY21 goals. And you can give it some kind of a description. So I'll just say tracking goals because we are doing a demo and we don't need this to be super descriptive here. You can put it in a workspace and then, of course, assign a sensitivity label if you want one. So one of the things that if anyone attended Ignite, you may or may not have heard this at Ignite, but when we originally created goals, this was going to be a premium only feature, and the program management team and the design team and our leadership team were a little bit bummed about that because we know that this is going to be super valuable for people who don't use premium as well. So we announced at Ignite, we're really excited that this is actually not going to be a premium only feature. So you can have just pro workspaces and be creating scorecards there as well. So that was a big win for our team, and we're really excited about that. So you can go ahead and create your scorecard here, give it the description and the name, and then simply click create. So this will bring us to our first scorecard, and it's empty here. And we can now start populating it with goals that we care about. So let's go ahead and add our first goal. So right off the bat, you can see we have a couple of fields to fill out. So let's give this goal a name. We will call it, let's say, grow Northwind revenue to 6 million. You can assign it in owners. This is connected to your AAD. So if I just type in one of my team members' names, they'll pop up in a list down here, and I can assign it to anyone on my team. It does default to whoever is creating the scorecard. So you saw it defaulted to Carly there. You can easily change that. Here we have our current
Carly,
yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Because you assigned this as well to a workspace, what does the what can the admin of the workspace do in this scorecard?
So they will have the admin of the workspace that you put the scorecard in will have edit permissions to the scorecard. But you can, so one of the features we'll go over later is something called goal level permissions. So this is within a scorecard, you can lock it down and say, okay, no matter what's going on in the workspace, here's who has view access and edit access or check-in permissions to specific goals.
Okay, so you can set them, you have to set them separately from each other.
If you share the scorecard, via like the share button at the top, out of the box, it's going to share all of the goals with whoever you share the scorecard with. But then on top of that, if you say, I actually don't want all these goals to be shared, you can go and create goal level permissions, which will say, okay, by default, maybe I don't want anyone to see, you know, these top 5 goals, and only these people should have update permissions to these specific goals. So you can set that on a really granular level.
And so you're very flexible with that.
Yeah, and we'll go over that feature as well.
Okay.
But great question. All right, so again, you can assign it an owner here, and then you have your current and target values. So let's say, I think for our current value, last time I looked, we were at like 1.6 million. So million. And like I said in our title here, my target is 6 million. Type that in here, million, I keep typing thousands. What? Let's see, there we go, million. All right, so I can give it that target. I can also assign it a status. So let's go ahead and say for right now, this is on track. And then of course, give it a start and due date. So I'm gonna say those look good for now, and I can go ahead and save this goal. So just with a couple clicks, I already have my first goal created, and I'm starting to see some value from goals that I can give to this business. So one of the other ways you can start tracking and organizing your goals is creating sub goals. So here you can see I've created my revenue goal of 6 million, but in a normal business context, I'm not just tracking overall revenue. There's probably some specific product lines that are going to add up to that overall revenue goal of 6 million. So if I click on the goal itself here, and I see this button up here that lights up called Add Sub Goal. If I go ahead and click on that, it actually generates kind of like an indented related child goal to this parent goal of revenue that I created. So I can start getting more granular and tracking those individual product lines. So let's say for this sub goal, I want to call this grow Northwind North. You guys are going to see all of my typing drama. I am not a very good typer. So grow Northwind premium to 1.5 million. I'm going to leave myself as the owner for this one. And then again, I can go through the same process and assign my current and target values as well as my status. So one thing that I will note here, and that we can do differently than our first goal, if you remember, I just typed in I had a lot of difficulty, but I did type in 1.6 million as the kind of static number for my value. The other way that you can create goals is connected goals. So you can see this button here that says connect to data. I know we all have all of our organizational data beautifully visualized in reports in Power BI already. So what this does is give you the ability to go and say, I know where this data, this current value is in my report. Let me go connect to that data point so that every time my data is refreshed, my value will also update. So I don't have to do that manually. So for this one, let's go. And when I click connect to data, it brings me to all of my reports that I have build access to. This is just showing my reasons right here, but you can see I do have a bunch of reports in here that I can search from. So let's say I know that my revenue goal is tracked in my Northwind sales report. So I'm going to go ahead and click next. And it's actually going to load this report for me. So I can just take a look at what I'm very familiar with. I go to this report all the time. I know where this data is tracked. Here I can see I have revenue over time, and I found my little, I can't remember which one I did. I think I did premium. I've done this demo a couple times. I think I did premium. I'm seeing some thumbs up. So I see my premium revenue is here. And when I select that in the legend, it's going to say, okay, I see this is time series data. So we're going to pull that entire time series so you can see the history of what's going on with this data point. So once I say, okay, this looks good, I'm going to click connect. And this is going to load and connect that data, I think. Luckily, I have a backup here of what it would look like after I connected a bunch of goals here. Looks like we're having a little bit of loading trouble in this one. But you can see this was the goal that I set up, and it is connected to data here. I can go into the goal itself, and you can see that here it says update connection, indicating that it is connected. I can't override this and type in. This is going to come from the data itself. So this will update every time the data refreshes as well. One other benefit to connecting to data, specifically in a time series, is right away you get this little progress line, which is something that we didn't have right away when we did a manual goal, when we just typed it in. So this is what when we saw that entire time series kind of highlighted, we were bringing in the history and showing you the trend of what's going on with the history of your goal. So you get this right off the bat. For manual goals, you can update the current value. And as soon as you add another data point, so maybe my overall revenue went from 1.6 million to like 2 million, we will start to see that progress line, and we do maintain and snapshot the history of that goal. But for connected values, you do get that benefit right away. So apologies about the loading. Looks like it's still having trouble, but you can imagine some time has passed and I've created all of these nice, beautiful goals for my organization. And this is what my scorecard starts to look like. So I have different groups of goals that are differentiated by the colors. So I know that, hey, all of these are related, all these orange ones are related, and so forth.
Carly, does they add up?
What was that?
You created 3 sub-goals.
Mm-hmm.
The standard to 2.5 and the premium to 1.5 and the enterprise to 2. Mm-hmm. You connect them to real data, but do they add up to the main goal?
To the main goal? So at the moment, they do not. I could add 3 more sub goals here with various numbers, and this value and this target would stay the same. We do want to incorporate that feature eventually. I think it's on our next semester's roadmap. So we will be doing roll-ups, which will give users the ability to say, maybe I want these to be an average, or I want these to be a sum, and really specify how they want that to be done. But at the moment, it is a manual process. Great question, though. Any other questions before I move on to the kind of next set of features? That was kind of the basic build process of goals.
Hi, Carly. I tried goals, and if you want to rearrange them, that didn't work. But maybe it's in another version. If you make a mistake and then you want to correct it, and you want to put something higher on the list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we actually heard that feedback a lot from a lot of people. So that was another thing that I believe was released like maybe yesterday, where you can drag and drop goals. And I'm in kind of a development environment here, so it might not be working. Okay, it is working in this environment. So you can see I can drag and drop these goals and reorder them. So that works for, I can drag like a whole group and relocate it, or I can rearrange sub goals within a group, or take a sub goal and move it to an entirely different kind of parent-child group. And all of that is supported now today in the product. Yeah.
Carly, I was wondering, I saw you connecting to a report, but can you also connect directly to a data flow to get your data?
Right now, you cannot. It has to be visualized in a report somewhere for us to go and connect to that data point.
Okay. Clear.
All right, so from here, a couple other key features that will be good to kind of have a grasp of if you want to go and start playing around with goals yourself. You can get a little bit more information on a particular goal. If you click on it, we open up what we're calling the details pane, which shows you a kind of bigger visualization of what's going on with the history of your goal, as well as an entire tab dedicated to the history. So what kind of changes were made? What were those changes? Who were they made by? So you can get that history here. One other thing that you can do in this environment, you can see that we have this button called New Check-in. So this is a really valuable way to keep your goals up to date. So check-ins allow you to update the current status, or I'm sorry, the current value, the status, and to add a note on a goal. So this is especially useful if you have a manual goal. So that first one, you remember I just typed in 1.6 million. Let's say that that number has changed. I can go and update it here, as well as add a note for some context. So if I click New Check-in, this one is connected to a source report. So I won't be able to update the value because that's derived directly from the report. I can't override that here manually, but I can select the date and change the status. So let's say I went and looked at the report and the data is, doing way better than I actually thought it was last time a check-in was done. So I can actually go and change this status so that it's labeled as on track. I can add a note that says something like, sales promo got us up in numbers, something like that. And I can save that so that my team knows what's going on. And you can see that it changed from at risk to on track. And you can see out here, it also changed from at risk to on track. So one question that we got a lot when we introduced the check-ins here is people were saying, okay, well, I can't update the value on a connected goal, but I still have to go and perform check-ins anyway because I have to update the status. That doesn't make any sense. And we totally understood and we agreed. So one of the other features that we enabled is status rules. So this allows you to basically say, okay, when your value says it is less than 50% or more than 50% of your target, you want to automatically label your status as behind. And there's a couple of conditions that you can set up. You can base it on the value. I think the date is one of them, and the percent change in relation to the target. And you can set up your rules to really, really nail your business scenario and then dictate when those rules happen. Here's what I want my status to be labeled as. So to get there, we can again open the details pane and come in here. We see an area called status rules. So if we click into here, here's where we can start building those rules. So I'll just I talked through it, but I'll give a quick overview here. Again, you can change this first drop down and select if you want your rule to hinge on the value or if you want it to hinge on the date or the value change. So for this one, let's just say if my value is, let's say, less than or equal to, we'll do 50% of the target here, then I want my status to be labeled as behind. Otherwise, I think we can say it's good and it's on track. So when I save this, I'm not sure, I can't remember what the status was at, but I believe, yep, we can see that this changed in the background because that condition was met. So my status changed to be labeled to reflect that rule. You can add conditions here, so you can have a couple different rows for more complex rules, and you can, mix and match what kind of conditions you want. So I can have a value one mixed with a date one, mixed with a percent change, so you can really nail that business scenario. All right, so I'll save that. The one other thing that I will show here before I start getting into some of the features that are going to be rolling out within the next couple weeks is the ability to dive into an underlying report when you do have a connected data. So I'm going to enter read mode. I was currently in edit mode. So let's say you're browsing your scorecard, you're looking at your overall goals, and you say, hey, what is going on here? Why is this behind? I need some more information. I really need to go talk to Bogdan. But before I talk to Bogdan, I want to be armed with what's actually going on in the scenario. So let's take a look at the underlying data. We have this little icon that will, zoom you off directly to the report that it's connected to, so you can get some more business context for what's going on. And I don't have access to this report. Let's try another one. I believe I have access to all these ones up here. And assuming we don't run into that same load issue, here we go. It plops us directly on the report with the data that we're connected to highlighted, so we can start doing some further analysis into what's going on, why this is behind, and get some context here. So I'm going to pop us back over to the scorecard. And like I said, I'm going to talk about some features that are going to be rolling out within the next couple weeks. But I want to just take a brief moment and pause. I know there was a lot of people who this was their first experience with goals, and that was a lot of information I just threw at you. So happy to go back and clarify anything or answer any questions if there are any. Silence is usually a good thing. That means we're all on the same page, I think. You can reserve the right to stop me later and come back to anything that I've already gone over. So. All right, so one of the things that we had a question about earlier was access and permissions. So something we've introduced is this idea of goal level permissions. So there are plenty of scenarios where when you share a scorecard here, it basically just shares the scorecard with anyone it's shared with, and that means they can see all of the goals and they have check-in permissions to all of the goals. Like anyone who has the scorecard can perform a check-in and update the value or the status. So there are plenty of scenarios where that should not be the case, and people may be able to view everything, but maybe the scorecard author doesn't want anyone who shouldn't be updating the goal to update it, so they want to lock down that permission. And there are also plenty of scenarios where, hey, I just don't want anyone who gets access to this to see all the goals. I want, by default, them to just not see anything until I explicitly give them permission. So that is something we can achieve with goal level permissions. So I'm going to go back into edit mode on my scorecard up here and come into this little settings button here, which opens the details pane so I can get some of my scorecard information. But we also see a tab here called permissions. So when I click into the permissions tab, the way that we've set up our role level permissions is similar to RLS, how they have and use roles. So I can create roles here with really specific and granular view permissions and update permissions to all the goals on my scorecard, and then assign people to those roles. So you can see that right off the bat, I have 2 roles here that are kind of automatic because we've heard that they're pretty common business scenarios. So one of them is view all, where everyone can just see all of the goals, but they don't have update permissions to anything. And then the other common one that we've heard is view and update all. So if by default you want everyone to see everything and be able to do all the check-in permissions, that's fine here too. We have that right off the bat. But you can also customize these so that they are, exactly how you want them, and you can add new ones as well. So let's go in here, and if we click add role, this brings us to the area where we can start to really get granular with those permissions and assign what we need to match our business scenarios. So let's imagine I'm going to give this role a new name. Let's call this Netherlands sales team. And I can give it a description and say salespeople in Netherlands should update their goals or something like that. And again, this role members is connected to your AAD, so I can start typing people's names in here. I can add myself as a member to this role. And I should have mentioned this earlier with the owners too. So you can type in distribution groups and distribution lists. They're supported here. So if you want a group of people to be added automatically, you can just put a DL as an owner of a goal or as role members here, and it will just populate it with all the people in that list. So once I add people here, I can start to say, all right, what permissions should this group of people have? So this is a sales team. So let's imagine if by default we want them to see everything, they get view access to everything on the scorecard, except for this last one. Let's just say I just picked a random one here for the demo, but let's say for some reason we don't want our sales team to see this last goal here. So we can just simply uncheck that box, which means they won't see this goal. It just won't show up on their scorecard. And then similarly, we can assign the update permissions. So the update permissions come in a 3-part. So you can really get granular about how you want people to update them. So right now you can update like I showed earlier in the check-in, the current value, the status, or the notes. Unless something is connected to data or has automated statuses, then you won't be able to update them, but they will still see that UI and it will be exposed to them. It's already connected to data, so they won't be able to update it. So this is a sales team. These people are responsible for updating their numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and give them access to everything. Whoops, let me unselect this bottom one again. Access to everything for the current, and I can do the same thing for status and notes. Again, I'm going to uncheck this last one. It keeps wanting to be checked because I keep doing the shortcut of hitting the select all at the top. But if I say, okay, this looks good, I can take away some note permissions if I want, or some random status permissions. You can get really granular with what you want people to see here. And then I can save that. And so now anyone in that role is going to see those permissions. And then I can do the same thing if I want maybe like a leadership role. And these people should be able to see everything, but I don't want leadership to go in and update my sales numbers. Like, this is something that I do because I am a salesperson. They shouldn't be able to touch this. You can absolutely restrict that access and they won't be able to perform any check-ins on your numbers. So you can save that as well. And now I have my nice roles that are going to say who can see what and who can do what. The last thing I'll comment on for the goal level permissions before I open it up for questions is this. Probably some of you have seen this little default icon here. This was an ask from a lot of customers here. Right now, by default, everyone can see everything on the scorecard, like I said. But if you assign a different role that you create as the default, that will be what people see when they share the scorecard and they're not a part of another role. So if for some reason I wanted everyone to be able to, by default, see 12 goals and update 12 goals, I can just go in here and set this as the default. And now anytime I share the scorecard or anytime anyone shares the scorecard with anyone else, and they're not already a member of another role, this is the permission set that they're going to see. So I can go and set that so that it matches what I need from my business. And then once those are done, I can go out and back to my scorecard and just share the report as I normally would, and my permissions will be met. So again, I'll pause here. That was a lot of information. I'm happy to take any questions or feedback or anything like that.
Yeah, we do have a comment from Jan Henk Reef.
Okay.
And he says, when creating a first scorecard, then I have to add a premium workspace. How can I add a scorecard created with a pro license?
Yeah, so I need to sync back with our engineering manager. This is a change we announced yesterday at Ignite, so it just might not have trickled down to the product yet. You could try using it in DXT, but so just instead of like app.powerbi.com, you could try using dxt.powerbi.com. That sometimes gets you like a little bit newer features that haven't yet trickled down to like the main product. But if you can't do it right now, it will be supported in the coming weeks. It just might not have reached production yet since we just announced it yesterday.
All right. Yeah, it's an interesting one, dxt.powerbi.com.
Yeah. This is fun. I also use this for all my demos because I just have I have way better data sets in my DXT environment for some reason, and you can't share data sets across environments. So I can't move all my stuff that's like really good in DXT to like my normal app workspace. So I just do all my stuff in DXT. And sometimes people are like, what? Why is your thing blue? Like, what environment are you even in? And I'm like, sorry. So. Any other questions?
No, just a remark. I really like this because I'm not in the IT department. I'm an end user, and I can do this myself, and I can add existing reports which are being built by developers, and even do now all the goal level permissions. So great stuff. Thank you for that.
That's really, really great for us to hear. That was one of our aims with designing this tool. And one of my aims back when I was a user researcher before I was a program manager, because I was working on goals, we really knew that this was going to be valuable, not only for really technical folks and for creators, but for end users. Like they should be able to go in and set some of this stuff up. Like everyone has goals they need to track. And we really wanted this to be accessible to everyone and usable by everyone. So that's really great to hear.
Yeah.
It's one of our goals. Sorry about the pun.
Yeah.
Okay, I can move on and continue walking through some of the features that we'll be rolling out if there are no more questions.
I'm just seeing someone trying to connect to dxt.powerbi.com. I guess someone.
It will be dxt.powerbi.com. So it should look like that in the URL. And I think that will work. There might be something where like your organization or like your like tenant admin might have needed to set up like DXT access. So I'm not 100% sure on who can access DXT or not. I thought it was like a pretty broad audience. But if you can't access that, then apologies. And the ability to add it in a pro workspace will be trickling down within the days or weeks to come.
Yeah, I tried it myself, and I was redirected. I could log in, but I was redirected to the app.
To the app. Yeah, it could be a tenant admin setting then. So you can either access or contact your tenant admin or just wait until it's in the product. Sorry.
I will be patient.
Okay. Okay. So one of the other cool things about goals is if you go to the workspace that you created your scorecard in, you can see that for every scorecard, we also generate a data set. And the data in the data set is the scorecard data. So it has all of the goal names and all the updates and the current values and targets, statuses, all that good stuff. And we snapshot the data from your scorecard, I think at minimum once a day, and then also every time the data changes or is refreshed. So it gives a really good, accurate picture of the timeline of your scorecard. So this is where you can access that. And of course, you can go into your, let's go into this one. I think this is the one I was just in. And you can, of course, build content on top of that data set. So if you want to visualize your targets against your currents for some reason in a report or see them in relationship to the statuses, you can do that. So if I enter the report, I can start to see some of the data here and visualize this. One really cool thing that I will be talking about that, again, we'll be rolling out in the next couple of weeks. I believe that this will be officially announced and released on November 15th or 16th, is the Scorecard Visual. So this gives you the ability to take a scorecard and just plop it into a report or create a brand new scorecard from a report setting. So you'll see there's this new little icon in the visualization pane. So if you click that, you'll be prompted to select, hey, do you want to create a new scorecard or do you want to connect to an existing scorecard? And I'm just going to connect to an existing scorecard. I'm going to select that one that we were just working on. So it brings you everything in that workspace. And here, boom, you could see I was having trouble loading data earlier. And even this was like super fast, just loaded super quickly. And here I have all of my goals that we were just looking at on the scorecard. So I can go back to my report. I can resize this. I can add it on a new page. I can see it in context with other reports and with other visuals and other data that I want to visualize alongside it. So this is a really cool feature. Again, it will be rolling out in the next, I think, like 2 weeks or so. So everyone should be able to use it then. All right, I'm going to plop us back into our scorecard. This one still has not loaded. It is having problems. I'm going to come back to, let's see, there we go. So one other thing that I will mention, and again, this is a new one, so rolling out in the next couple of weeks, you might not have access to it now, but is integration with Power Automate. So we know that a lot of our organizations that we work with love to automate their flows and their business processes. So we have created standalone triggers in Power Automate, so you can do things and set up scenarios like, when my status changes to at risk, send the owner an email, or when any goal on my scorecard value drops, like send an email to so-and-so. So you can set up a lot of really cool scenarios with our standalone actions and triggers. So eventually when this does trickle down to you being able to see it in the product, there'll be a little button in the ribbon that says create a flow. So if you click that, it will just kick you off and put you right in the Power Automate setting. A couple weeks after we release this round, we are going to also release templates, but it's not going to come with the first round. We really just wanted to get this out and get people using it. So eventually this will show templates, and they'll set up more complex business scenarios that we've heard. So things like, okay, so when my status changes to at risk, send the owner an email that reminds them to fill out this form survey. So then when they fill out the form survey, take that content, update the check-in, and add the content from that form survey as a note and save it, and then like email leadership to tell them that that was done. So really kind of more complex, more stepped automations. And we'll have, I think there's like 7 or 8 templates that we'll start with. And then, of course, we'll be adding more once we continue to talk to customers and see what are the common scenarios that we should support. So those will be coming a couple weeks after we release just this initial round. But for now, it'll direct you here, and you can click Create Your Own Flow. And this will bring you to where you typically, what you typically see when you create a flow. And I won't build out an entire one, but I will show you just some of the actions and triggers that are new here. So if you go to the Power BI connector, all the ones that say preview, I believe, are our goals ones. So when the status changes, when someone assigns a new owner to a goal, when someone edits a goal or a check-in, when anything in the goal changes, when the data refresh fails. And then, of course, we have an even longer list of actions here that are supported as well. So hopefully with this amount, you can at least get started with your business scenario. Again, we'll be continuing to release these as we hear the needs from customers. So we will be adding more eventually to support your business scenario. So I'll pause again, and I can go through any questions that anyone has. I'm going to just X out of this tab before I keep going to it. Happy to answer any questions or go over anything else. But if there's nothing, then we can stop recording, and I can just kind of talk through some of the new stuff that is not being broadly released yet, and broadly talked about.
Yeah, hello. I have a question about goals. Is it possible to have more complex status models to reflect, for instance, seasonal influences?
Let's see. Let me come back to my. Let me go back to my good scorecard here. So in this, you mean in the status rules specifically, like in here?
Yes.
So right now you can set those up just by having the date function. So you can set up your seasonality and have like, I don't know, 4 rules or something that go for like Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, and you can set up whatever conditions you want in there. It is a feature ask that we've heard though before, so we have it as an item on our backlog to try to get working on. One other thing I will call out that might help though is because this isn't supported natively, this is something that you'll have to build for seasonality for the status rules. But one thing that is supported is in an individual goal, we have tracking cycles. So this little percentage that you see, so you can see this is down 1% week over week, 8% week over week, up 3% week over week. This is something you can change and make custom to your goal. So if you click on the goal itself and go into settings, this is where you can set the tracking cycle. So out of the box, we have, you can set it daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, or yearly. And this will change the trend and the progress of what you see there. So it'll show you just what was happening, you know, for whatever you set it. So if I go and set this, I think it was weekly. So let's set it to daily and we can say track. And once we go back out here, we can see that now it's actually, whoop, I got to get used to being able to move goals around the scorecard. You can see now instead of week over week, it's giving me a daily trend. So that's one way you can get at the kind of periodicity or seasonality, but it's not yet supported natively in the status rules.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. What else you got?
Carly, can you tell a bit more about the visual, why you would use the visual instead of just doing it in the PowerBI.com?
Yeah, the main benefit of the visual is being able to, let's see, where did I go? Oh, here it is. The main benefit that we've heard from customers or use case for having a visual is being able to see this in context with other data. So you can load other data here as well and have, you know, a bunch of different data sets visualized in one report. And one of the main scenarios that we've heard is, hey, we have this like monthly business review with our leadership team and they want to see all of these specific numbers. So we don't want to have to flip back and forth between the report that we always use and the scorecard and have that juxtaposition. We just want to have this in one cohesive story where someone can go, it's like a one-stop shop for everything they need to see. And not only is it a one-stop shop, but they can see it in relation to other data that they care about. And it's not going to be released with this initial wave of the scorecard visual, but one of the upcoming things that we're working on is cross-filtering. So if you have this scorecard next to another, you know, another line chart or bar chart or something, and you click on one of the items in the bar chart, you will see how that relates to goals, and it will that behavior will be supported. So that's another benefit. Yeah, but not yet. It's coming. Anything else?
Yeah, Carly, I also have one question. Earlier on, you were showing that you had like that data model with the on the right hand side. You saw, for example, the table goals. So you were able to use it as a data model from the Power BI portal. Is there a way to connect to this model from like a Power BI desktop, maybe using like an XML endpoint, so that I can go really to the data set, or is that not possible?
I think you may have just stumped me. I think that is possible. Let me check with our engineering manager and just see like what the best way to do that is, and then I can shoot you an email and you can share that broadly. But I don't want to give a wrong answer off the top of my head, so let me just double check, and I can get back to you with that one.
Yeah, that would be really nice if you could do that.
Yeah.
All right, let's see if there are other questions.
Do the goals disappear after the due date, and if they are reached?
No, they don't disappear. They'll stay there. Sometimes people want to reset the goal if it's like a monthly goal or a quarterly goal. They might want to just go in and edit it and reset it. Or if it was a one-time goal and you're done with it, it won't disappear, but you can go and remove it or delete it if you don't want to see it anymore. Or you can just drag it down to the bottom. I don't know. Some people might do that.
Is it possible to hide them? If you want to know that the goal is reached, but you don't want to see them anymore.
You can't hide them, but you can collapse the sub goals. So if you have one, you'll still see the parent goal though. So if this one is the one that's reached, or the due date is reached, or the status is completed, or whatever it may be. You can't hide this one, but if you have a bunch of sub goals that are completed and you don't want to see them, you can collapse it.
Thanks.
Or just hide it in the where is it with the goal level permissions? You can hide it completely.
Yep, that is true. You can go and hide those as well. It's a good workaround. That also did remind me. So one other kind of feature that we are now supporting are showing and hiding specific columns. So it doesn't hide the goals, but you can reorder how you want this to show up, or like we've heard from some organizations that status is really not that important to them. So you can just unselect status or unselect a due date if you don't have a due date. And when you apply those, your view changes so that it matches, what you need from your scenario.
Carly, can you explain what will be the best way if I have monthly goals, but I set them just at the beginning of the year? Something like financial goals. You have goals for each month for the whole year, and of course you will change them, new forecast stuff, but just setting all those 12 different goals, what will be the best way to deal with setting those goals, tracking those goals in this with this feature?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a scenario that comes up a lot. Two ways that we've heard people tackle this right now is one, creating one parent goal for maybe it's like their sales revenue goal. And so they have it, the parent goal is like a yearly kind of overall one. So they'll do in Q4, here's where we need to be, like overall, we need to get to this point. And then they'll have like either 12 sub goals, one for each month, or 4 sub goals, one for each quarter, whatever kind of periodicity or tracking cycle they have in their organization. So they'll have the 4 like sub goals leading up to that one parent goal. Or they'll just,
but without sorry for interrupting, but without roll up, right? So
that's a manual process at the moment. Yeah.
Okay.
Or we've seen people just have one goal that they go in when the month is over, and they go and edit the goal and edit the target and update it, and then they just reuse the same goal.
Yeah, okay. But the first one makes most sense if you ask me. If you want to see the history of your KPIs.
What I did, Hielke, is that we have a measure for actuals and we have a measure for budget. And when you have a line graph or a histograph, you select the actuals in the actuals, and the plan you select your forecast, and then they get filled automatically both.
Oh, so you have one goal in that case.
Now you have for example revenue.
Yeah.
And you have actuals and plan in the same chart. They are 2 lines. So when you select the actual, you connect to the actual, and when you want to have the plan, you connect to the plan line. Easy as that. There are no programming skills needed.
Yeah, and
only one remark for me there is we have visuals, Zebra BI visuals, and they don't work with goals. So
what type of visual is it? Sorry.
Yeah, Zebra BI. So it's a visual which is always shown also in your updates. So it's a partner of Microsoft, and we really like that because they support the IBCS standards. So we really like them. But I wanted to try goals with those visuals, but it didn't work. So that's too bad. So, but okay, maybe in the future.
We will be just supporting with each release, hopefully more and more visuals that are supported when you're connecting to goals. So
okay.
Yep. And sorry, just one quick other note on if you have multiple targets where you're either connecting to a target that changes, or you're changing the target yourself when you have a new quarter or new month or whatever it might be. Because we snapshot the data, you don't lose what the old target was. You can still go back in your data set and visualize that. And you'll have, for November 3rd, 2020, maybe my target was like 10, but November 3rd, 2021, it's 15 now. So we don't lose that. We don't apply the new target to all the past data. You'll still have that as historical data. So you can go visualize that and go see it in the snapshots.
Okay.
I was reading an article about Microsoft Cloud for Sustainability, and I recognized some pictures of goals and some pictures of Power BI. What exactly will be the relationship between all of them?
So as far as I know, the sustainability team is using goals as part of their native solution. So it's almost like an embedded version of a scorecard and of goals within their solution. So I'm not directly working with that team, so I don't know the full story, but we have been partnering, and that was part of some of our features were kind of direct requests for them because it's going to be native in their solution.
I just see one more question in the chat about using a measure to connect to for setting goals. I'm not sure about the question itself, but maybe it's already answered. But the question is if you can connect to a measure setting goals.
You can connect to a measure as long as the measure is visualized.
Yeah.
Okay. I see we have just a couple minutes left. I think it would be best to maybe stop recording, and then I can tell you all of our secrets.
Exactly. Okay, I'm now, so everyone who's looking on our YouTube channel, my apologies. Now it gets really exciting, but then you better register and turn off, and then you can see everything. That's the message. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, bye-bye.